Tansei. Good evening. I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. 62 Indigenous items belonging to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities came back to Canada on Saturday. The items have been in the possession of the Vatican for more than a century. The items landed in Montreal before being transferred to the Canadian Museum of History in Ottawa. The repatriation was initiated by the late Pope Francis. Leaders from several national Indigenous organizations received the items. As they were transferred from the plane, a ceremony was conducted, including one from Ganawage elder Kevin Deere. Inuit Taparit Kanatami President Nathan Obed says 14 of the 62 items were from the Inuit Nunavut. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak says some of these items are from various nations, including Innu and Anishinaabe First Nations. Métis National Council President Victoria Pruden also said the Vatican identified at least one item as Métis. Youth representatives traveled overseas to Rome to make sure the items returned home safely.
The return of our belongings represents the return of our teachings, our stories, and our responsibilities. Our nations deserve clarity, accountability, and respect as our belongings make their way home. This moment is a continuation of a deep ancestral work, meeting the legal frameworks and the cultural rights that First Nations peoples have fought for generations. Now that they are back home with us, our nations will assert their rights to determine how best to take care of them. These are not simply artifacts. They are our belongings, our ancestors, vital indicators of our nation's histories and our people's identities and cultures.
These 62 items are to be delivered to the Canadian Museum of History in Ottawa as they need time to acclimatize before being viewed. The Manitoba Métis Federation has launched 2 lawsuits against the province of Manitoba for its role in the Sixties Scoop. In what is now known as forced assimilation, thousands of Indigenous children were removed from their families and placed in non-Indigenous households where they lost connection to their culture, language, and community. One is a class action for individual Red River Métis Scoop survivors seeking justice for their resulting trauma. The class period runs from 1939 to 1991. The second proceeding is against Manitoba and Canada on behalf of Red River Métis as a collective. It seeks recognition and compensation for lasting harms inflicted by the Scoop against Red River Métis as Indigenous people. The MMF says thousands of Red River Métis were victimized and the collective wounds remain unaddressed. Métis survivors were excluded from a 2017 federal 60 Scoop class action settlement where only status Indians and Inuit were eligible. It's been tricky finding a home for a supervised drug consumption site in central Winnipeg due to child safety concerns from residents in the area. Now, a new location has been proposed with those worries in mind. The Manitoba government's proposed Supervised Consumption Site, or SCS, at 366 Henry Avenue in Winnipeg is located a block away from the Siloam Mission Shelter and Soup Kitchen. Addictions Minister Bernadette Smith says people need services like this in the area. The new spot will be more than 250 meters away from any school or registered childcare facility. Unlike the last proposed site, which was across a multiple-lane freeway from a high school, a point of contention for some residents, the SCS will not supply substances but allow users to bring their own drugs to a monitored facility to prevent overdose deaths, of which there were a suspected 570 in Winnipeg in just 2024 alone. The Manitoba government will consult with residents about the proposed site through 2 community sessions facilitated by a local research firm this week. 3 days of meetings are underway that will determine the future of Denison Mine's Wheeler River project in northern Saskatchewan. If approved, the site will be prepared for construction of the new uranium mine. The Wheeler River project is a mine and mill proposed for the Athabasca Basin, 35 kilometers southwest of the McArthur River uranium mine. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission is holding the meetings to review technical details and ensure Denison meets its duty to consult with affected Indigenous groups. The hearings will include input from impacted First Nations to address their concerns and priorities before approval can be given. Last week, Métis Nation Saskatchewan signed an agreement benefit agreement with Denison, giving their approval for the project. Last Friday, a Court of King's Bench justice ruled that a referendum by the province of Alberta separating from Canada is unconstitutional and violates treaty rights. A citizen-submitted referendum question asks if Alberta should become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada. In May, Premier Danielle Smith stated if a citizen-submitted referendum question gathered enough signatures, it would be included in a 2026 referendum. No signatures have been gathered as of today. Several First Nation groups and nations are opposed to the idea of Alberta separating, including Chief Alan Adam.
Citizens-initiated referendum is supposed to be permissive. It's not supposed to have a whole pile of gatekeepers standing in the way of questions that the public want to ask in good faith. And what we've been observing is that whether it's the chief electoral officer or the court, they seem to want to approve the ones they like and hold up the ones they don't like. And that's not democracy.
It just goes to show that, Danielle Smith and the UCP government can't rule Alberta with a thumb and just expect to go wherever they want to go. The courts have made decisions that without treaty First Nations people don't even talk about separation without their consent.
Future Indigenous leaders made sure to leave their mark on the final day of the Assembly of First Nations, which happened last week in downtown Ottawa. Nungunske Rose Jacobs has the story.
And I don't see our youth here get invited to speak. They are our future. Where are they? When are we going to allow them to speak?
That was Neskondiga Chief Gary Cassis during the morning meeting of the Assembly of First Nations. He was not only there to call attention to his community that has been under a 30-year boil water advisory, but to support the youth present. He ensured their voices would be heard before the AFN Assembly closed.
Too often we're undermined. Too often we're spoken for. But you can see here right now we have a voice. You can hear me clearly, strongly, but also in a good way.
Katakwapi was one of the youth who gathered from First Nations across Canada to attend the AFN. However, many felt they were not heard.
We did have to create space for our voices to be heard at this assembly, but 9 times out of 10 we do have to create space for our voices to be heard across different provinces or, within our communities and politics in general.
Youth like Kiera LeBeau took a stand to raise her concerns.
If we want thriving nations 7 generations from now, then we must build those foundations for our youth today, not by speaking for them, but by speaking with them, not by placing them in the corner, but by welcoming them to the front.
The youth were not only there over concerns occurring in their own communities, but to the threats of Bill 5.
In Ontario, in our lands, we're being attacked with Bill 5. But we're seeing such a huge wall in front of us to be able to respond to that as people when they only engage with our leadership. But we want to stand with you.
The youth said they are ready to join in on protecting the future of Indigenous peoples. Julie Albert told APTN News that they must be a part of these conversations.
And I think that it's important for people in my community, people in communities all over Manitoba and Canada to be educated on what this legislation is going to do and how united we have to be, especially as young people. These decisions are going to carry forward, and we need to be on the ground, educating ourselves, arming ourselves, and being prepared for what's to come.
26-year-old Chief Devin Felker of West Point First Nation is one of the youngest chiefs.
They're up to amazing things. Like, the amount of youth that I see out at these events is actually mind-blowing. I never knew that there were so many young people at these events. Like, before I was ever on council in 2019, I didn't even know that there was a space for youth in these kind of places.
The youth said with concerns in community and about Ontario's economic legislation Bill 5, support is now vital.
I think you've seen the great outcome of what's possible when youth do take that step, but I would really appreciate our leaders stepping up to be able to create that capacity, as that capacity normally falls on the youth to have to create those spaces, and there would be a lot of positivity if we came together to allow those doors to be opened for youth.
Nagonska Rose Jacobs, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A Mi'kmaq community on the East Coast is looking at new ways to be more wildfire prepared for next year. Angel Moore is up next with that story. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nunavut Tungavik Inc. President Jeremy Tunraluk has been placed on leave following an assault charge. Police have not released information regarding the incident, but Tunraluk is on a Nunavut court docket facing one charge of assault with a weapon or causing bodily harm, specifically charge 267C under the criminal code, which includes choking, suffocation, or strangling. The 39-year-old, who was originally from Arctic Bay, has been president of NTI for about a year, but is now on unpaid leave. NTI's Vice President Paul Erngott has been appointed as acting president until the next steps are decided on by the organization's governing body. Tunraluk's first court appearance is scheduled for January 15th in Iqaluit. Tunraluk is also a well-known Nunavut musician. The city of Yellowknife will be opening its doors to a facility armed with programs and services they hope will offer a way out of homelessness and into a permanent housing and employment. Our APTN reporter Charlotte Mort Jacobs takes us on a tour of the new facility.
Anyone entering this facility has a clear, supported plan and pathway.
A path forward that doesn't end at a shelter bed. That's what this new transitional housing facility on the outskirts of Yellowknife will offer 24 Northerners.
The facility will offer residents privacy, stability, and a safe environment to focus on life skills, case management, and long-term planning.
The territorial government is contracting the Yellowknife Women's Society to operate the space, which will serve clients who find themselves between emergency shelters and permanent independent housing. Arlene Hache is the Society's interim director. She says respect and representation are non-negotiable, born from lived experience.
Every person moving into this building will have an individualized plan that will talk about, their strengths, challenges they're facing at the moment, and then the steps they need to take to move out.
Scheduled transportation will be available between the site and various areas of Yellowknife. The facility includes a kitchen and a walk-in fridge and freezer, a dining room, a gathering space, office and training space, laundry room, private bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and even a honeymoon suite. Well, not quite, but the Society is adamant to meet the clients where they're at.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't go into shelters because they're couples. That's right.
The facility is also rethinking how gender is understood within emergency and transitional spaces. Even as the organization's name shifts, the cultural learning continues.
You might know the Yellowknife Women's Society is actually recreating itself to reflect what we do, which is to support all genders.
According to the most recent point-in-time count, over 90% of those experiencing homelessness in Yellowknife identify as Indigenous.
How long do you expect the transition to take place?
Thanks to partnerships with other organizations, residents at the transitional housing facility.
It's a mistake to even talk about a time limit for anyone.
Will have access to mental health and cultural supports and training programs like digital and literacy skills and job readiness. But a central question remains. Where will clients move out to? Hache says transitional housing only works if there are viable, sustainable options beyond its doors.
So we have to do a lot of work, in my opinion, with landlords. We are looking at different other housing options for permanent housing and affordable rent.
Yellowknife Women's Society received $5 million from the GNWT for operating the facility from December 2025 till April 2028.
Housing is a right. This is an essential service, and it's money well spent.
Meanwhile, first things first, move-in date is anticipated for December 15th. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Thank you, Charlotte. Nova Scotia is known for all kinds of storms, which blows over trees that in turn contributes to wildfires. A Mi'kmaq community is preparing for next year's fire season with new technology that aligns with Mi'kmaq values. APTN video journalist Angel Moore reports.
Jamie Lee Gihu is from the Sibäganagati First Nation. She is the community's emergency measures officer and stopped by the BioBurn Pros demonstration, a new partnership to help protect her community from forest fires.
Once I got the assessment done from FireSmart and I seen the results and I seen how much of a high risk we actually are for wildfire, I just took the initiative to find somewhere that somebody could help us mitigate and create a mitigation plan to help us minimize our risk to fire.
BioBurn has mobile burn chambers that can be deployed to a site where wood debris is burned at a high temperature so it is smoke-free. About 8 tons of wood can be burned per hour, important for a province where storms can leave behind a massive amount of wood debris, potential fuel for a forest fire. Joe Lewis is the president of BioBurn Pros and says the byproduct of the burning is returned to the earth.
And that value is through biochar. That's what's left at the end of the burn, is just the char. We've come to find out that that char will actually retain carbon back into the ground for decades, and it helps protect against drought. So then the soil is more resilient in fire times. The plants are more resilient as well.
Sibäganagati First Nation is the first community to partner with BioBurn Pros, and Lewis welcomes working with more First Nations.
So we come to find out that not only are we preventing fire, we're giving back to the earth. And again, being stewards of the land and giving back to the earth is at the core of the values of the First Nations. And they've seen a great marriage between what we do as an operation and what they believe in as a community.
Gihu is impressed and says the technology aligns with Mi'kmaq beliefs, taking care of the land.
They not only burn smokeless, but they create a substance called biochar, which can be returned back to the earth, and it's something that we can benefit from it.
Gihu says the fire prevention project will include a fire break and provide employment.
I will be hiring people within my community to do the inside of the community, because these guys are going to be doing the perimeter of my community to create a fire break around the entire perimeter. So our community members will be doing the mitigation work on the inside of it.
Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabutuk, also called Halifax.
There have been some changes made to the upcoming Arctic Winter Games. Stay with us for that update. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. April Isidore shared this setting sun as it sheds some light on Cookam's outreach located near Zusard, Alberta. Thanks, April, for your picture. If you or someone you know has a photo to share, send those pictures to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Tomorrow's weather forecast is up next. On the East Coast, Halifax -2, Charlottetown -3. -4 in Anujiwak, La Grande River -7. Saguenay -6, Montreal -5 and partly cloudy. Toronto 1, Sarnia 0. -4 in Thunder Bay, Sioux Lookout, clear skies and -10. Thompson -19, God's Lake -15. -8 in flurries in Winnipeg, Gimli -9. Saskatoon -7, Regina 0. Uranium City -18, La Ronge -15. -18 in Peace River, Fort McMurray -15. 2 in Calgary, Edmonton -6. 8 and cloudy in Vancouver, Campbell River 9. Prince Rupert 5, Smithers 1. -42 in Dawson, Rock River -27. -24 in Wrigley, -21 in Fort Liard. Fort McPherson minus 27, Colville Lake minus 27 as well. Minus 17 in Chesterfield, clear skies in Baker Lake at minus 29. And Arctic Bay minus 21, Iqaluit minus 6 and sunny. Northern athletes will have to wait an extra year between Arctic Winter Games following next year's event in Whitehorse. The Arctic Winter Games International Committee says the Games will now be held every 3 years, a change from the previous 2-year schedule. The major multi-sport event brings together more than 2,000 young athletes from across the circumpolar north. Officials say the change will give host communities more time for planning and operational readiness. As a result, 2 future games scheduled for 2028 and 2030 will be pushed back. The 3-year cycle will be in effect until 2032. APTN Investigates is on hiatus for the next few months while the team is busy chasing down new leads and gathering stories for the new year. You can catch all of their previous seasons and episodes online now at aptnnews.ca, on our APTN News YouTube channel as well. And be sure and check out last Saturday's documentary, Dismantling Denialism, which looks at the rise of residential school denialism in Canada. Here's a preview.
Achieving reconciliation, as I observed, is like climbing a mountain. It will not always be easy. There will be storms, there will be obstacles. Our goal is a just one, and it is also necessary for our children.
Canada's Indian residential school era has become a central part of our national identity. The federal policy to kill the Indian in the child has had lasting impacts still being felt to this day. More recently, the discovery of what are believed to be unmarked graves of children has brought the discussion surrounding truth and reconciliation back to the forefront. But there has been an eruption of late of what some academics call residential school denialism.
We're proceeding on the basis of a falsehood. The lie that 215 bodies were found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. The remains of 215 children have not been confirmed.
We had heard that Frances Widdowson, an alleged denialist, was coming to Winnipeg to speak at local university.
I'm not leaving.
During her 2-day visit, we watched the effect her words and presence had on the Indigenous community, and saw that while having to push back against denialism is an unwanted task for knowledge keepers and academics, it's a necessary one at this moment.
You can catch all seasons and episodes of APTN Investigates, including Dismantling Denialism, online now at aptnnews.ca and on our APTN News YouTube page. And that's your evening newscast for this Monday, December 8th. APTN National News Daytime is back midday tomorrow with more news updates. Please join us then. From our reporters from across the country and from us in downtown Winnipeg, Kananaskis Mitten, thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.